Welcome back to the last live stream about my top 50 greatest groups in hip hop book. Top 50 greatest groups in hip hop. The top 50 greatest groups in hip hop history book that I wrote a decade ago. Here it is. I'm gonna give you the number one greatest group of all time in hip hop history. It's a Tribe Called Quest, man. I think Tribe Called Quest, before I wrote the book, for years always felt that they were the greatest group of all time. I think we look at their run that they had, the three albums that they had, the first three albums, bangers after bangers, consistently coming out with something great every time. That's not easy. You always make a great album the first time you come out. But the thing is, you gotta deal with the sophomore jinx. Sophomore jinx. And they rose above the sophomore jinx and kept it moving. And I think that's what made them the greatest ever. So let's get into it, man. Why Tribe Called Quest is the greatest group of all time. It was hip hop's most perfect group. They made three consecutive albums in a row. That's the only reason why I think they're the greatest. Now, anybody gonna respond to this video can't respond. I have no problem with it. But when you look at three classic albums, 1990, People's Instinctive Travels in the Paths of Rhythm. 91, Low End Theory. 93, Midnight Marauder. How many albums, any group, I ain't talking about solo artists, I'm talking about groups that made albums like that on that level. Maybe Public Enemy, Yo Bum Rush the Show in 1987. Definitely Take Some Nicks from Millions to Hold Us Back, 1988. 1990, Fear of a Black Planet. Yes, you can go to EPMD's discography, look at Strictly Business. Their first album in 88, 89, Unfinished Business. 1990, they released, I don't think it was in 91, I think it was in 90. Business as Usual. Make a case they made three classic albums. Make a case. Even Eric B. and Rakim. They made a case they made three classic albums in a row. 87, obviously, Paid in Full. 88, Follow the Leader. 1990, they made Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. Three classic albums in a row. You make a case. Even Coogee Rap and Polo. They made Road to the Riches. Wanted Dead or Alive. 89, Road to the Riches. 1990, Wanted Dead or Alive. 92, Live and Let Die. Thanks for letting people tune in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. I mean, it was a lot of groups that made three great albums in a row. You can make a case. Outkast. Their first three albums. Yes. Southern Paleolithic, Cadillac Music, AC Aliens, and Aquemini. I don't know about Stankonia. Stankonia was good, but I don't think it's classic. But the way Tribe did what they did, I just think they were the best. They were the most perfect group because they came out in a time in the early 90s where you make a great album, but the sophomore jinx, like, can you do better? I mean, even Wu-Tang Clan. I love Wu-Tang Clan. I have them in my top 10. I don't think Wu-Tang Clan made three classic albums. They made Into the Wu-Tang 1993. That was a great album. But 97, okay, Wu-Tang Forever. That wasn't a great album. Or The W in 2000. Or Iron Flag in 2001. No. Good stuff they made on those albums, but nothing come close to that first one. And plus the layoff, that album came out in 93. 97, the game had changed. It was different. Mafioso rap was dominating the landscape of rap in the East Coast. Shiny Suits era, stuff like that. You had that stuff going on. So 97, I mean, Wu-Tang gonna be coming hard like they did in 92, 93. The game was different. So I think Tribe was the best, man. The first three albums. What other album catalog can go against that? From a group perspective. I just think they were the best. Let's get into it, man. Thanks for hitting the like button. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. So not many rap groups or solo artists ever accomplish this feat because it's easy to make a classic album when you make your debut. But you can do it 3 straight times. But can you do it 3 straight times? Maybe Outkast, maybe EPMD, or Eric B. and Rakim, maybe. In many cases, they made 3 classic albums in a row, 3 straight bangers in a row. Now, those who know who Tribe Called Quest is, Q-Tip, Phife Dawg, Alicia Muhammad, Jarobi. The group was formed in 1985. The group's first album was in 1990. People think the track was a passive rhythm. The album dealt with a playful lyrical approach. Just to take a look at Can I Kick It? Other topics that was mentioned was safe sex, vegetarianism, youth experiences. What made this album different was a sense of humor that made the album free from the hardcore and conscious hip hop that was prevalent at the time. Singing off songs off the album was Bonita Pabum, left on Wyatt El Segundo. This album developed a devoted following within the alternative hip hop community, but the album that would be the group's claim to fame was 1991's The Low End Theory. What made this album so different was the concept of the album. According to Q-Tip, Low End Theory was inspired by NWA Straight Outta Compton, and the album had a straight bass sound because bassist Ron Carter was featured on Low End Theory. The album was one of the first albums to have a laid-back jazz atmosphere. The album's minimalist sound was strict to the essentials: vocals, the drums, the bass drum, and vocals emphasizing the downbeat on every track. Overall, this album included hits like Check the Rhyme, Jazz, Bugging Out, Scenario, made the greatest posse cut ever made. And then put on Ice on Cake, the third consecutive classic album, Midnight Marauders in 1993. The group came out swinging with the first single, Award Tour. Then Electric Relaxation, songs like that. Midnight Marauders was, Tribe's bestseller, and the album certified the group as alternative rap's sound merchants. So in the final analysis, Tribe Called Quest was one of a kind, with the ability to distinguish themselves from the pack while rejecting the sophomore jinx, continue to make classic after classic. There will never be a group like a Tribe Called Quest. Facts. There'll be a group like them. When you talk about the stuff that they did, they're the greatest ever. I have the facts to back it up. As I continue on, they're the greatest ever because they revolutionized the genre sound and ethos. They pioneered jazz rap, avoiding aggressive machismo. They crafted socially conscious, inclusive, and deeply artistic music that expanded hip-hop's creative boundaries. Jazz rap pioneers, producers Q-Tip and Ali Shaheed Muhammad shifted the sonic landscape, sampling deep cut jazz records instead of standard funk and soul. This laid back yet deeply rhythmic sound paved the way for modern alternative hip hop. The Tribe dynamic, Q-Tip smooth, philosophical flow, and then you got the razor sharp, relatable punchlines of Phife Dawg, arguably provide the greatest lyrical chemistry in rap history. Then the flawless 3-album run. From the 1990s to 1993, they released a trio of undisputed masterpieces. People's Distinctive Travels, The Passive Rhythm, The Low End Theory, Midnight Marauder. Every track on these albums is particularly crafted, retaining immense replay value decades later. Cultural impact, obviously being part of, the Native Tongues Collective, like the Jungle Brothers, De La Soul. They infused Afrocentrism, humor, intelligence into rap, making the genre feel communal, intellectually balanced. I mean, Tribe Called Quest is the greatest ever, man. They're the best. Best ever. Best ever to do it. I just think the things that they did, game changers, again, make classic album after classic album. How many groups can say that? Rap groups or solo artists say they made 3 classic albums in a row. Usually you fall off after your second album or your third album. Usually you fall away because the landscape of the music, but to stay consistent in the midst of what's going on. Because gangster rap was dominating in the early 90s. From 1999 to 1993, gangster rap. They still making classics. They stayed true to who they were. That's the thing that makes them great, because they did not fall away. Tribe Called Quest. This is coming out of the Native Tongues. We got Black Sheep, we got De La Soul, Jungle Brothers, got some heavy hitters. And they still was able to do better than them. Had the most successful, accomplishments coming out of the Native Tongues. 6 of his albums was certified gold or platinum. So I think that from that perspective, man, I think they're the greatest group of ever lived, ever touched the mic. That's their legacy, man. 3 classic albums in a row, 3 bangers, undisputed. What? How many groups made classic albums like them? Again, you can make a case about Outkast. I'll put them in that category. EPMD, Eric B. and Rakim. Maybe. Public Enemy. Maybe. That's pushing it, but maybe. I don't think that. I mean, Joe Bum vs. the Show, that was probably good. Was it a classic? Probably not. I don't think it's blasphemy to say that. I don't think he did like Tribe Called Quest. Another thing before I close, what made Tribe Called Quest a great group is their album covers. You never saw their faces on the album covers. Like the first album cover, you don't see their face. You see the 4 gentlemen up a Tribe Called Quest. But you don't see their faces. They're faceless. That makes sense. Though in theory, you don't see their faces. The third album, you see other rappers' faces. That was one of the great album covers of all time. The third album, Midnight Marauder, you got other rappers, other artists, DJs, whatever it is. They're not even on the cover. They got other people on the cover. Midnight Marauder. One of the great album covers ever. And one of the most influential groups of all time. How many groups came out, or artists came out due to their influence? A lot of people looked at them as an influence and what they were doing. Tribe Called Quest. I won't mention the names, but I'm quite sure they had a lot of influence on a lot of artists that they influenced with that album. The first album. Matter of fact, the first album influenced Common, D'Angelo, The Blue Planets, Erykah Badu, The Fugees, Jay Dilla, Kendrick Lamar, Mos Def, Outkast, Scarface, Kanye West. Pharrell, he said he listens to Beat Neva every day. I never heard anything like that in my life. See? So they influenced a lot of artists that came after them. That's what makes a group the greatest ever. When you can influence a lot of artists. Not quite sure, yeah, Cold Crush Brothers influenced people. Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5 influenced a lot of people. Public Enemy. But Tribe influenced a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? They did the alternative route and still made great music. Being alternative. They ain't trying to be tough guys and thug and gangster, whole black militant and all that. They were Afrocentric, but they wasn't, to the core with it. You know what I'm saying? So I think they one of the greats. They the greats ever. Tribe Called Quest. Low End Theory. Let's look at that album cover. Great album cover. Picture of a woman, in red, black, and green. You know what I'm saying? Like, creative. Very creative. Unbelievable. Amazing. The album cover. Classic stuff. Masterpiece. The photograph of a kneeling woman painted in Afrocentric colors. Red, black, and green. Think about that. Unique. Different. Low End Theory took Tribe to the next level. And Phife Dawg, lyrical breakout. He came to his own on that album. Came into his own. Different. So, self-explanatory, man. This influenced Phonte, Knife Wonder, Outkast, the Roots. They influenced a lot of people, man. Even that album influenced Nas, Jill Scott, influenced Dr. Dre, who produced his solo debut, The Chronic, after being inspired by the album. He made The Chronic because of even listening to Low End Theory. Going to What I See. In 2022, that album, Low End Theory, was selected by the Library of Congress for
preservation in the National Recording Registry for being culturally, historically, aesthetically significant. That's special. Again, Tribe was the group, man. Low End Theory. Then this lastly is get to Midnight Marauders. Great album cover again. All the rappers on the cover. They got other artists on the cover. What group would think about making an album cover featuring other artists on the cover instead of themselves? That's special right there. That's special. That's a level of respect that people had for Tribe. To have other rappers be featured on an album cover of Midnight Marauder other than themselves. That's rare. They cover art. That's special. Because they had so many people on that album cover. There's like 71 different hip hop luminaries and radio DJs that was on that cover of Midnight Marauders. And that was very important at that time because it displayed cultural unity. For we had the so-called East Coast, West Coast, where it was sensationalized by the media. I think it was genuine. You know what I'm saying? I think it was genuine. I don't think it was fake. But look at what they did. Who they had on the cover. 3rd Bass, African Bambaataa, AMG, Ant Banks, Beastie Boys, Awesome 2, Black Moon, Busta Rhymes, Casual, Chi Ali, Chuck Rock, Chuck D, the Cold Crush Brothers, Daddy O, Stetsasonic, Dallas, Austin, Del the Funky Homo Sapien, Diamond D, De La Soul, Dr. Dre, from Yo TV Raps, Dougie Fresh, Fat Five Freddy, Grandmaster D of Houdini, Grandmaster Flash, Heavy D, Ice T, Jazzy J, DJ Jazzy Joyce, Jungle Brothers, Kid Capri, Cool DJ Red Alert, Kumo D, Large Professor, Light Truck, Lords of the Underground, MC Light, Nick the Exotic, Organized Confusion, The Far Side, Rashad Smith, Rocksteady Crew, Crazy Legs, Mr. Wiggles, Pee Wee Dance, and Rule, DJ Ron G, DJ Silver D, even Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs on the cover. Skeff Amslam, Souls of Mischief, Special Ed, Sweet Tea, Too Short, Zulu Nation Supreme Council. Those are people that was on that cover. I mean, great album. Masterpiece. Yep, that's all that need to be said, man. So I'm done. About 11 minutes. I'll be back with a new series, the top 50 underrated classic albums in hip hop history. I wrote that book in 2014, I believe, at that time, a decade ago. Still relevant to this day. So we're going to get into that real soon. So thanks for all that have tuned in during this series of the top 50 greatest groups in hip hop. A Tribe Called Quest is the greatest group of all time. That's all I got to say about that. Body work speaks for itself. Until then, talk to you soon.